very, very few people had the idea that neon could be anything but commercial as a beautiful art expression. It was new to people. It was like a brand new thing.
Our thing was put it in, have a party, pull it out, and leave no trace. We were mainly temporary, fleeting aesthetic vandals.
I was in a fire department, and we had a fire at a Toby's, which was at Bay and Bloor. It was a stubborn fire. We couldn't get at it, and the guys off the aerial truck in Yorkville Station brought the fume hood down in the kitchen, which dislodged a couple of neon beer signs. They weren't broken. And as they were swinging through the smoke, they were creating moire patterns. And my perception of neon up to that point was it's a very tacky, ugly commercial medium. And when I looked at it closely, it was completely beautiful. And then that's how my first interest in neon was completely accidental, serendipitous, I would say.
I had gone in 1980 to New York City and saw a thing called Glass America Now. 2 years later, had the opportunity when signing up with OCA to do environmental design, to indulge in like dirty hands work in what I thought was going to be stained glass. I saw this bloody equipment and I thought, oh my God, this is the stuff they used to make all that stuff in the show I saw in New York. And I ran back to the office and said, that studio, like being in stained glass, do I have access to that? They said, no. I said, you know what? Take me off that and put me on that. Can you do that? And they did. And that like sucked me into the hot glass world.
The way I met Alfred the first time that we were exposed to each other was he was working in the hot glass studio on the third floor of the Ontario College of Art. And we showed up with the fire department for some alarms went off. My captain said, shut everything down. And Alfred started freaking out.
They were going, what are you even doing in here? The fire alarm went off. Yeah. Why are you out on the street? I said, I'm here to defend the studio from you bloody people.
How we were formed as Outlaw Neon was we finally started getting together, and we just discussed about how much percentage of the work of creating work was in the paperwork. We decided, like, let's just bypass all that stuff. And we've got all these beautiful neon tubes. Let's put them wherever we feel like putting them. And that's how it started. And it was named Outlaw because we're outside of the bounds of art law more than real law. And the real law outbounds came later.
The original group is Orest Tataryn, Andrei Berezowski, Alfred Engerer, Jennifer Descartes, and Gil Alkin. And then later, the addition of Lois Anderson. In the late 1980s, Andre came along to take glass courses. His background at that time was in stained and beveled glass. And I think it was Jennifer that first said, we should do a thing. We should propel this out into the open. I think it was mainly Orest, Andre, and me that said, we'll do it without permission. Andre thought we should do this stuff and we should do it anonymously, that the group should not be known by individual names, but only this name. The first thing we did was the Humber River Bridge.
We had a whole crew of people. Everybody got the word except media, because if you invite the media, the cops are right behind them, and then you have trespassing charges. So we mounted the bridge with ropes and generators, and climbing through the bridge work, and suspended the neon over the river. And We got away with it. We couldn't leave it up. So all the projects that were Outlaw Neon were put up as an adventure, enjoyed, celebrated, documented, taken down, and run away. Whatever structure or place that we did our Outlaw Neon in was beautified for one short blink of its existence, and it would go back to its boring self.
Because the Renegade installations were like popularized only by word of mouth, eventually people were using terms like, oh, you know, the Neon Outlaws, or is it the Neon Cowboys? One time there was a meeting during the Michael Snow project at the Rivoli, and Michael Snow said, you know, like those guys, the Neon Bandits. I consider it one of the best things we ever did, that billboard.
We noticed a billboard, but I think it was me driving by the garden and saying, well, that looked pretty good. We mounted onto the roof of this warehouse, and there were some people that lived in the area. They allowed us access to their electricity. We planned everything beforehand, and a whole bunch of people knew about it. And we had stage aluminum tubes, and we hooked up a military camouflage net. We strung ropes over the top of the billboard, and on the other side we had people pulling up the ropes like a curtain, and it would come up so high as to stop, and we would knit the hand-blown neon in through the camouflage mesh, wire it, and say, okay, pull it up, and step by step we covered this camouflage net with neon and plugged it all in, and had a big party. So we had tens of thousands of audience in the traffic looking at our neon stolen billboard with lots of people up top. It was just fantastic. It was also very dangerous. I got electrocuted. That was at the motorcycle graveyard out in Mississauga. And I went to pick up a transformer by both hands in a puddle of water. And I got zapped with 15,000 volts of electricity. The high amperage is what kills you. The high voltage is what makes you really dance. We discovered the freighter just floating there doing nothing, paint peeling, all that stuff. And the first day we scouted, we came up to take a look what we can do. Oh yeah, we can mount. It's not that high off. It's only about 6 feet off the pier and the boat. Oh, it's easy. We could look. We climbed aboard and took a look what we could do. And the day we showed up, the wind had changed and it blew the freighter about 6 or 8 feet away. Okay, listen, this is the rules, okay? If somebody falls in, you throw them a rope, a safety rope we're gonna have here, and drag them over to this tire, okay? Okay. I don't plan to do that. Well, I know you don't plan to do it, but we didn't plan the boat to be 5 feet away either.
Could you bring back a life jacket for me?
We had Gil Gavril, which was our documentarian, and a cop showed up, ready to bust us. I kind of pretended I was a movie director, screaming and cursing at everybody. And the police know not to disrupt, film production. So they went away and we went ahead with this wonderful project.
We knew this woman whose name was Nancy Wilson and her husband.
Oh, right.
They lived on the southern perimeter of the St. Michael's Cemetery at the corner of Yonge and St. Clair, but hidden in a block south and west. And we thought, a cemetery in neon, how doesn't that go together? And we organized this thing. We ran I think about 1,000 feet of of extension cord into the cemetery, and we ended up taking up over this section where there was this beautiful monument with the name Burns on it. I think at that installation, maybe there was like 15 people who saw it. Some people complained, how dare you decorate someone's grave with neon?
Yeah.
And we were like, they might like it, right?
It's not like Alfred's digging up corpses and screwing them, you know.
Not that time. Eventually, the group became known because we submitted to a request from, I think it was Toronto Life, right? About the Outlaw Neon. And we submitted to doing a group photograph and we were identified in it.
The way we kind of morphed from the outlaw work into the more collaborative, I guess, art world, it was triggered by being invited to an international exhibition in Mexico City.
So here's the thing. Before we went to Mexico, Andrei Berezovsky's ex-wife, Lenny Mocas, had become involved with a guy called Jorge Morales.
Or as I call him, Jorge, more or less.
They are the people that came up with the NAFA, the North American Free Artists Association idea. And so we were like merely one part of the whole thing.
It was in response to the political thing about NAFTA, about globalization of North America, and there was a big protest.
Sure they seal your heart away.
So our group was only Mexican artists and Canadian artists and eliminated any Americans. So that was like a big statement. When we arrived at Mexico City, everything was supposed to be taken care of by the university. The day we landed, the university went on strike. And there was all this freak out, no, it's a failure. I said, well, it's not a failure, we're in Mexico. We've already won. And we got in a neon factory, and the guy that was the boss, the owner, big place, I said, what, you're gonna put neon in it? It's impossible, you can't do that. I've been doing this for 50 years, what you're proposing is impossible. He basically said, you can't do it. I said, we can do this, we do this all the time. To prove it, I had to take one of the glass tubes that we made and neck it down and process it and put it on the table and bombard it and make it come to life. And he says, okay, go for it, this is fantastic. And somehow we got it back to the roof of Ex Teresa, which used to be a convent, until the earthquake tilted the convent and all the nuns got miserable from rolling out of bed. So we got it all up there and did the installation.
All of these art installations and performances were to occur within and upon this tilted convent, which was nice, okay? Like the nuns move out, the artists move in, right?
We were working on the brick roof of Ex Teresa, and here was the tower and the cupola. And over here was the presidential palace. And they had soldiers up on the roof, and Alfred the shutterbug, he's taking pictures. He's taking pictures of the presidential palace, and we're screaming at Alfred, put the camera down, put the camera down, as the Mexican soldiers are aiming their guns at us.
Machine guns.
Yeah, machine guns. Because we're like spies, we're gonna kill the president or something.
Andre controlled this part of the thing, where the installation was moved from up the drum of the building into the cupola of the dome, which is where it remains to this day, and still lit.
Yeah, well, not lit anymore, but
It ain't?
we said, well, we'll leave it up here. We're not taking it down, you know, just, it's yours. You can have it, the transformers, all that stuff. It's gonna work at least a year. And at least 10, 15 years later, it was still working, right? The Outlaw Neon group had the 3 stages: outlaw, collaboration, commercial money. Andre was friends with Daniel Sekulich, I think, and they had some kind of a connection there. They hooked us up with the Cineplex Odeon Theater Corporation, and it kept escalating and escalating. Anyway, the dynamic of the group changed. Another member came on to try to make it more professional. Through a lot of politics and a long story, it moved to Montreal. And the group disintegrated. Alfred was the first to leave. I tried working with it in Montreal. Somehow it's quite an ugly divorce. To this day, there's people not talking to each other over it. So it was kind of a sad ending, but the adventure in between was, irreplaceable. The progress of our entire existence was Outlaw Neon, The Outlaw Neon, Skunk Works, Outlaw Neon, and then Swan, S-W-O-N, Skunk Works, Outlaw Neon, and then after that it was just the O, 0.
It was not a kind of sad ending. It was a horribly sad ending, which deserves murderous activity,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned.
that's right. And that's why you didn't finish this off.
There was a point where Andre said, you know what, we don't need a photographer, we need a cook.
That's right.
Some woman was performing as a buffalo or something.
Yeah.
Remember?
The dance troupe with the dead chickens, right?
Yeah. There was it was just this totally insane evening.
Yeah.
What question number is that?
3.
You know, Alfred, the one I'm going to answer?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
We don't know what the initial things cost us because we didn't care.
Yeah.
We just did it. The great things that are about to happen are right under the noses of the experts. But they are so involved in what they do that they can't see it. And it takes a youngster or a newcomer of some kind to say, you know what, look at this. And we're not the only ones. Other people have done it, and maybe better.
I don't know about better.